Welcome back to the Pathfinders podcast. I'm your host, Pete Schramm, and today we're going to talk about career maps and a personal board of advisors. We'll dive into the career map in all 5 dimensions. The first piece being the titles, roles, positions that people held, the skills that they used in each of those roles along the way, the certification and education as they went through it, the achievements and accomplishments, and some of the fun stuff. And then we'll couple that with their personal board of advisors, those multiple mentors and guides as they went through the process. So we'll post this on LinkedIn and the other podcasting platforms. So please stay tuned along the way and comment some of your thoughts and ideas and even some of the takeaways as you're going through listening to this. The quote for today's episode is "Get 1% better every day." Our guest today, Grant Harris, is the founder and president of GTH Consulting, LLC. It's a boutique management consulting firm offering customized DEIA services, organizational development, and human capital work to public and private sector clients. Grant is a certified diversity executive, 3-time published autistic author, consultant speaker, and he's also a corporate board member. His work helps institutions move from compliance to community to achieve organizational excellence while promoting neurodiversity in the workplace, from boardroom to mailroom. Love that. One of the many fun facts for Grant is that he took 30 days and memorized every flag of every country, more than 200 of them. So without further ado, let's bring Grant up to the stage. Grant, how you doing today?
Hey, Pete, it's a good day. Glad to be here. Appreciate the opportunity.
Of course, of course. So the first question that we always ask to get started is, what did you want to be when you were growing up?
Oh, excellent question. And I don't really have a good answer for that, Pete. I can't say that I wanted to be a scientist. I can't say that I wanted to be an engineer or a doctor or even an athlete, although I was an athlete for most of my life. I don't really recall having one specific thing that I wanted to be. Now, there's a couple of caveats to that. My wife will tell you that I don't have the best recollection of my childhood years. She can remember minuscule, minute, very small things from her childhood years. And she asked me about similar things. And I'm like, I don't really recall that. And I recall big things from my childhood. I was a happy kid, sisters, played a lot, all this kind of thing. But small things like, oh, I want to be this when talking to my first grade teacher, and I want to be this when I grow up. I don't necessarily recall that. What I do recall is that whatever I wanted to do or felt like I wanted to do, I wanted to like deep dive on that. I wanted to be the best. I wanted to be immersed in it. I didn't want to do anything halfway. Didn't feel like I wanted to skim over, oh, let's just try this out and I'll just try that out. Whatever it was, I wanted to go hard at it and I wanted to be the best at it that I could. I do recall those feelings, and especially when I started looking at things that I liked, which happened to be athletics, which I gravitated to early on in my life. Those feelings were there from the beginning, but having one specific thing, I want to be a scientist like my son, he wants to be a scientist. I don't have that one specific thing. So that may be a bit odd, but I'm a bit odd. It's okay.
That's all right. We'll get into some more of the oddities as we keep going through this. I see what you did there. So as you're going through the grade school, high school years, planning for college, how did you figure out kind of what did you want to study in school? How were you able to formulate some of that kind of a plan?
So I've always been a reader, writer, thinker. Numbers, math, never my thing. Never really did well when it came to that side of the brain. But reading, writing, thinking, philosophy, deep thought, writing down my thoughts. I wrote a lot of poetry when I was younger. In school, my friends used to dread writing a paper and having to do research for the paper and coming up with a thesis or those kind of things. I never dreaded them. High school kid, it's not like, oh yeah, this weekend I'm going to spend my time writing my paper. It wasn't like that. but I also didn't hate it. It wasn't like, oh, another paper. And when I was writing or when I was thinking and having conversations, theoretical conversations, that's when I found myself to be at my best, which ultimately led me to studying psychology. So my undergrad was in psychology. I thoroughly enjoy the brain, how the brain works, how we think. I had I had a minor for a while in philosophy because I enjoy thought and thinking about my thinking. That's another quote or a theme that you'll hear from me that people know me about. I like to think about my thinking. And other people call it overthinking, but I like to say I have a brain, so I should work it. I should use it. It's like a muscle, like anything else. So that led me to studying psychology in undergrad and philosophy, and then my MBA is in organizational development and psychology. So thinking about how businesses operate, how organizations think, how organizations behave, how groups of people think and operate and behave, and how they're successful and what their drawbacks are. And then that led me to an early career in education, which again is thinking. And I actually ended up teaching language arts and or English. So these things came full circle to me in my formative years. And that's how I came about my understanding of things that I like to study and how I like to study from those innate kind of experiences that I had coming up.
We'll dive into a little bit more of the professional journey and some of the things that you've done getting up to building your own boutique management consulting firm. But first, I want to hit back on some of the guides along the way, many of which may have come from those athletic days. I love talking to other athletes and figuring out, kind of, hey, what really shaped you in those formative years? So maybe talk to us a little bit about some of those guides, but emphasize early on some of the athletic background from you.
Oh, yeah. So I started playing sports, every sport that had a ball that did not involve water. I played. So football, basketball, tennis, baseball, a little bit of soccer. My dad and my family wasn't into soccer that much, but I gave it a stride. Lacrosse was another. So I was heavy into sports early on. Thoroughly enjoyed it. All my sisters played sports. It wasn't like just me. We were sports heavy family. And obviously coaches, good and bad, play a role in early formative years. But for me, my high school coach, I graduated from a different high school. I went to two different high schools. And I appreciated my coach at my first high school. He had a good reputation. But we didn't have a personal connection. He was good at what he did. I didn't disrespect him. He didn't disrespect me, but there wasn't a personal connection.
Yep.
But my second school was a personal connection, meaning I still visit my high school coach whenever I can because I still live in the same area. Fun fact, most people, upwards of 70 some odd % of people throughout their life live in the same radius that they went to high school in a commutable radius. So I still live in a commutable radius to my high school. He was very instrumental in getting me a college scholarship. He was very instrumental in understanding the college landscape of athletics because he was a prominent college player himself. He bestowed upon me the honor of being inducted into the inaugural Hall of Fame class from my high school. So we have maintained a personal relationship. His wife was a teacher at the school. She happened to be my English teacher.
Oh, wow.
So when I go visit him, I'm not just visiting him, I'm also visiting her, talking about the kids and the family, how they grew up. She was also always very good to me. She was like a second mom to me. When I was at school, she was my mom. So that relationship was very formative and has maintained a through line all the way to adulthood, and to, again, having the honor of being in the inaugural class of the Hall of Fame of this particular school. So those mentors and that particular coach for me was a large piece of my upbringing. He recently retired this past season. So a lot of good things came from that relationship.
So you mentioned that not all of these guides or leadership figures around us are necessarily the right fit for us. You alluded to a personal connection there. How did that translate into guides and mentors and people on your personal board as you went into the professional setting? Were there certain things that you look for in the right guides and advisors for you? And you might say, hey, they're a good leader, but they're not really the right fit for me. What really fed into those decision-making steps and almost like an internal checklist, if you will, for Grant's personal board?
Oh yeah, learning is on top of that list. Learning from that person, whether formally or informally, like they have something that I can learn from and I can be educated. It's not a transactional relationship. It's not based on tit for tat or this for that. It's not quid pro quo. It's we are getting something from each other on a regular basis that is making the person intrinsically or extrinsically better. And that goes back to my 1% better quote. I'm always looking to be better. And there's 7 different areas of life that humans occupy. And I won't name them all, but you have financial and spiritual and physical, etc. There's 7 different areas of life that are always tugging at you at any given point in time. And I should be learning in multiple areas of those aspects from the people that I surround. And I should also not be just drawing from them, but I should be having the opportunity to pour into them as well. Like I said, it's reciprocal. It's not just a transaction. So I can't be a leech and just suck everything from them. Give me all this knowledge. Give me all this interaction. I have to be able to then turn that into something and then come back and provide them with something, then with some education, then with some knowledge, a new experience, etc. So that's a big thing that I look for is one, learning. Can I learn from them in any way, shape, or form? Mm-hmm. 2, that it's not transactional. Yep. And 3, that it's not me just being the absorber. I'm also, what I learned from them, I'm able to create something out in the world and bring it back and say, hey, look what you help us do together. And I've been able to do that with this particular coach. I was the first at that. I was the first at that high school and the first on the football team to earn a Division I scholarship. Many others have earned scholarships since then. But that has always paved the way for others to come and say, this is how it's done. This is how this process goes. And I've been able to come back and mentor athletes at that particular school at the invitation of my coach to pour into other people. So it wasn't like, you did so great, while we were here, and then you left and you went on. That relationship has been reciprocal for a very long time. So those are things I also look for in relationships in my personal PDA as an adult in the work life. Yeah.
So as you start building up the personal board a little bit more, you mentioned the first few steps on the career map post school, grad school. How did you get more and more into this DEIA realm? Were you able to test drive some of those skills, or did you get voluntold to start utilizing that, or in one of your roles? Where did that really birth from?
So I did not go to school to study, and most people don't. Most practitioners in the field of diversity, equity, and inclusion and accessibility don't go to school to study it. They study gender studies or African American studies or women's history, these kind of other things that are connected, but it's not directly related. And these days, there are more certificates and trainings and coursework that you can take that's very specific related, but that wasn't me during my time. So I kind of tripped, fell, and rolled into it throughout my history. and more jobs than not, in the majority of my jobs, I raised my hand to do work that was DEI related, even though I did not know it at the time. For example, in the education space, I taught in a Title I, majority, minority, English as a second language, low income, high free and reduced lunch environment. And I taught autistic kids before I knew I was autistic. And I taught, quote unquote, behaviorally challenged kids, in the most, what we call, limited or segregated, environment, meaning they stayed in one or two classrooms for their entire school career. I taught in that environment. So all of that is DEI in terms of relating to those people, those students' families, the teachers around me, just being in that environment in a county, where on the other side of the tracks is highly affluent, highly Caucasian, Asian, most of those students going on to the Ivy League in the same county. And in that county, that particular county, for many years running, has been the first or the second most affluent county in the country. Beats out places like Orange County in California, all of that. However, there's this dichotomy of wealth on the eastern side and then income inequality on the western side. So I started out there, and then I made the switch. I switched to being in that high income, affluent environment. However, I was charged as an admissions officer and an elite STEM academy with marketing to the Black and brown and underprivileged and underrepresented and all the unders and all the others, with building up and seeking application from them and giving them opportunities to apply to an elite STEM academy, science, technology, engineering, and math, so that they could have these same opportunities. So that was very early on in my career, and I chose teaching and education for lots of reasons to start out. My mother worked in a school system at the time. She's going to retire from that same school system. I had been a substitute to just get money early on and straight out of college. And I am a proponent of education. I have multiple degrees and certificates and certifications that you can't see on the screen here. But I'm a proponent of education. So that experience just in of itself, just in the educational realm, I was fully immersed in the world of these folks being diverse, but inequality and inequity, and how do we include people with disabilities, and how do we teach them, and how do we give them opportunities to grow, and then flip the script and go to the other side and be immersed in the other side, but have to attract and still have the same conversations and communication with the other side. So that's a bit of a deep dive into a very early on in how I started out in the DEIA realm, but did not have a direct DEIA job or job title.
Mm-hmm. So talk about the next couple of steps on the career map. Were you able to build on some of these initial tools that you put into your toolbox as you continued growing and developing as a professional?
Honestly, I was a bit in the wilderness. I've had lots of jobs. And I've had maybe probably 3 careers in my time. And most people don't, even in this day and age, this is not your father's economy. Traditionalists, you stay 20, 30 years with one. That doesn't happen anymore. We know that. But I've had lots of jobs, and I've probably had 3 careers. I started out in management consulting right out of school. I transitioned into education, both K-12 and higher ed. And most recently, I transitioned into government contracting, entrepreneurship, etc. Most people don't necessarily jump in and out of that many careers at the age that I am that are vastly different. Management consulting is different than education. Education is different than entrepreneurship, et cetera, et cetera. So I was in the wilderness for a long time, and not necessarily, I was continuing that thread of not, this is what I want to be. I'm working towards this X thing. It was always, I'm doing this right now, and this is what I'm doing right now. I want to be the best at what I'm doing right now.
Yep.
And that led to multiple jobs, and multiple turns and twists. And while I was going through that wilderness, I'm looking at it and I'm like, oh, what am I really building? What am I really doing? What am I really gaining from this? And it was hard to see that until recently in my career that I got diagnosed as autistic about 3 years ago. And since then, I've had the opportunity to, one, learn more about myself and how I position myself in the world, but also how all of my life experiences have led to where I am now. And on a resume, you could say, oh, you've had all these jobs and you've been bouncing around. But now I look at that, you could look at that as a disadvantage. Now I see that as an advantage because I have so many experiences from so many different realms, and I've had success and failure in so many different realms. And I've been able to transition. I've been able to reinvent myself. I've been able to jump from one dot that seemingly has nothing to do with this dot and put together what I learned from this dot and be successful. And success is relative to, how you define that. But I've been able to do that throughout my career. And I look at it now as a skill. I look at it now as a trait that I have to be able to be basically dumped into any work environment that I've been in up until this point, find the skill, learn about me, how I relate, and then find some sort of success. And success means obviously positive ratings from leadership and bosses, promotions that I've had, rewards and awards that I've earned, these types of things. And that's extrinsic success. But more often than not, it's the people success of having an impact on the people that I'm working with, students, other teachers, businesses that are getting better, moving from point A to point B. So that's how I define success, both extrinsically and intrinsically. And that's how I was in the wilderness for a long time in my life in my work life, until about maybe 5 years ago, when I started doing DEI more specifically. Yep. And looking for those opportunities directly, but using all the indirect experience that I had for many, many years that I thought was just like, okay, I'm here now. But all of that led to where I am now and lead me to having conversations with people like you, Pete.
So I want to give a quick shout out to Dr. V for connecting us here. Big advocate in the DEI space. So thanks, Dr. V, for connecting the dots. Grant, I think there's a lot that people can learn from this conversation. The average tenure at an organization today is around 4.25 years. And whenever it's under the age of 35, I think it's closer to 2.5 or 2.8 years at an organization. So for people to figure out, hey, how can I learn from each of these steps? Maybe there's 10 to 15 steps, maybe even more, who knows, in a career or career journey, if you will. So I think it's figuring out, hey, each one of these is building blocks. And some of the skills and experiences and accomplishments and achievements are going to be transferable in the next role, the role after. And some might go into hibernation. You might have to dust off, some of those capabilities and abilities after 5 or 10, right? So I think to really remember that is big. Going to transition here slightly. So you have CDE. Yeah. As some of the letters after your name. Tell us what is that, and at what point were you like, man, I need to go get some more letters? Just having 5, 6, 7, 8 isn't enough for me. What's this one?
Yeah, that goes to the learning. So CDE is the Certified Diversity Executive. I'm a Certified Diversity Executive through the Institute for Diversity Certification. When I got into this work hot and heavy and was like, yeah, I want to do this, I didn't have the educational background and experience. I didn't have the relationship connections. All I had was my brain and my desire to learn more about this work. So as an autistic and how my traits show up, I deep dive again into anything that I have any type of interest or passion in. And I had already been doing this work formally and informally in some ways. And I knew, or I figured at that time, the best way to show other people that I knew what I was talking about in at least a certain realm was to be certified. There's a value in a degree, in a diploma. I have several on my wall in front of me. There's value in a certificate, which is additional education, which I have a postmaster certificate in educational leadership and administration. Very long title that makes me sound smarter than I am. There's value in that, but there's a different type of value in a certification that says you are capable and able to do X. Yep. You were able to put the pieces of the puzzle together to pass an exam or practicum, etc. And I'm not saying that exams and tests are perfect, but that's what the realm of competence is at that time, to say to the world that you were competent in X. So I went looking for those, and I have continued that going through. And this particular institution offers 2 certifications: the CDP, which is the Certified Diversity Professional, and the CDE, which is a higher level. It's a more global thinking aspect to it than the CDP. And now I'm in a position to mentor others. I actually am a peer review assessor, which means that I assess the projects that other people who are going through this process to get certified. I review them and I say, hey, this looks great. Pete, your project is part of the process. You submit a project and need to take an exam. In order to take the exam, you have to pass the project, which shows practicality. That means you can do something in the workplace already. And then it shows your ability to pass a test and know information. So I'm part of that process that helps people get to the test and say, yeah, this looks great. Your practical knowledge of a product looks good. You can move on to the next step. So I've been doing that for several years now. But that's where the CDE came from in terms of my personal certification. I have been pursuing and will continue to pursue business certifications that tell the business world that my business is certified and that I'm for real. The most recent one that I earned is the Small Woman and Minority or SWAM certification in the state of Virginia, which opens me up to contracts within the state, etc. And I'm pursuing others as well. But that will solidify my business as you should be doing business with me, because I have certain aspects of my business, certain set-asides that the government offers and that statewide governments and agencies offer based on disability status, etc. So I am I'm a proponent of everyone who is a business owner or not to pursue certification, because it says that you are an expert at a certain level in something. And then if you are a business owner, I certainly promote and encourage pursuing a certification for your business in and of itself, because it will push you at a different level.
100%. And I think the Small Business Development Center, SBDC, is a great place for anybody that wants to dive a little bit deeper, or, reach out to Grant and see how he did it, what other things might be applicable to you. And then the other cool thing about running your own shop is you get to choose who you get to collaborate with. Hey, you prime, sub prime, right on those different opportunities. We've done that plenty of different times. Grant, let's talk briefly about the need of DEIA in the workplace is sometimes going through cycles. More important, less important. I think you and I can both agree that the concepts and the core principles are something that ought to never leave and ought to be integrated throughout the ethos of every organization, whether it's formally called out or not. So what are some of the tips you might have for leaders at organizations of, hey, what should I be doing, even if I just want to get started whenever it comes to doing DEIA the right way? One of those steps might be calling you for some support and guidance, and that can be part of your response, of course, so they learn a little bit more about your work. But, maybe before, what are some of the things that they can get started on before they, make that smart move and pick up the phone call and call you?
Yeah. Well, I am autistic and I like structure. So I built a framework to help organizations and organizational leaders to work through a step-by-step cyclical process. And it's called the RACE framework, RACE. And it's an acronym and stands for recognize, acknowledge, cultivate, and engage. Recognize, acknowledge, cultivate, and engage. So first and foremost, leaders need to recognize who and where they are on their personal journey. Who am I? What are my core values? Where am I on this journey in my business or my personal journey? And that may take a while, and that's a process that I help leaders go through, but recognizing who and where they are. Next, they need to acknowledge their intent and their impact. Acknowledge the intent of what you say and what you do versus the impact of what you say and what you do, personally and on the business side. All of this is interpersonal as a person and a leader, and then from a business perspective, both sides. So there's intent and impact. What I say and what I do, and what I mean by that is not necessarily how it will impact Pete versus anyone else. So you need to acknowledge that. Third is cultivate. Cultivate tools and resources. This is where you're getting educated. You can't educate or try to educate yourself without first being aware of who you are and where you come from and where you think you are now, where you would like to go. And then being aware of the words that you use, your own mindsets, your own behaviors. It's very difficult to then be educated because you're not open yet. And you don't see your own blind spots yet, which is why education is not the first step. Education is like number 3. Yeah. So now you're getting tools and resources. How can I learn more about what I think I know about myself now? How can I learn more about Pete and his history or her history versus mine? What resources can I offer my people that they can dive into in terms of professional development? So cultivating tools and resources to education. Last and not least is engage. Engage is you got to do. I'm a practitioner. I'm not a researcher. I'm not an academic. Researchers, academics, practitioners, they all have their place in the world. I'm a practitioner. I'm a doer at the end of the day. So we're having this conversation, but I want to put something into action, test it, do it, implement it, integrate it, and then improve it. And that's part of what I do on my work is implement, integrate, and improve. And that's a cycle, but that's part of the engage. You have to actually do it. You can think all day about yourself. You can think about your thinking all day. And I think people should think more often. I'm a proponent of thinking about your thinking. But what's most important is what you do after you come to an assertion, after you come to something in your mind. Okay, well, what do I do with this now? You have to take a step, which goes back to getting 1% better. So that's the RACE framework that I work through with leaders. And it's cyclical. You can be in one thing at one time and you go through the other and you come back around. It's always working. It's never a place where, oh, I don't need to do R anymore. Oh, I don't need to do E anymore. It's always a process. So that's several ways within that leaders can start to take steps forward. And those are conversations. It's not easy. It's simple, but not easy, as I like to say. So those are some things that I would throw out there.
And why are some people calling you up specifically, saying, Grant, it's time. I need help with.
So for me,
when are we?
Call you? Yeah. So the neurodiversity aspect, and we can talk all day about this, but I know our time is short. So implementing neurodiversity or recognizing it or engaging with it from the top of the agency to the intern that comes in the door. So understanding and utilizing and emphasizing and supporting and advocating for neurodiversity in the workplace is my shtick, my space. I get more specific when it comes to specific types of employees, but neurodiversity throughout the workplace is a large effort. And it's something that has been around for a very long time, decades on decades, but seemingly so, it's a new concept to a lot of different people and a lot of different organizations. And if it's not a new concept, it's, well, how do we do it better for the future of work? You heard this term, future of work. Well, I don't use that term because in my estimation, the future has already passed. Reason being is because neurodistinct talent, as I like to say, has been overlooked and underutilized for many, many years. and it's been around us all the time. So I'm the neurodiversity guy that comes in to talk to the CEO about it, but not only the CEO, but also the mid-level manager, but also the new college grad, whatever college or education they came from, because neurodiversity runs throughout an organization. It's not at certain levels. It's not on the left or the right. It doesn't recognize blue or red. It doesn't recognize wealthy or poor. It doesn't recognize all of that because it's an innate trait that we all have. We're all neurodiverse, whether you identify as being neurodistinct, autistic, or ADD or not. We all have brains that work differently. So every one of us, CEO and intern, all have a brain. So that's the one thing that we all bring to the workplace that can be improved and that can be integrated as we move forward in our careers.
And I think that's something you talk about a lot, from the boardroom to the mailroom, right? We mentioned that in your bio as you're, getting started and kicking the show off today. But it really is that piece is I might be this kind of individual or have this aspect of diversity. That doesn't just happen early career, mid-career, late career. I love how you say, it happens at all levels, and it's okay and necessary and important to call it out. Last question before we go into the conclusion. We talked a lot about your career journey and those couple of guides that you had. How does this concept of a personal board of advisors coupled with that career map add value to organizations in your eyes, Grant?
Well, for me, I call it my personal brain trust, and maybe because I'm neurodistinct, I call it a brain trust, and also because Napoleon Hill, great book to read, Think and Grow Rich. He also had a trust. So you call it a PBA, I call it a brain trust. It's the circle of trust of folks that you have mentorship in that circle. And how it has impacted me is that I always have a sounding board, up and down in terms of career, left and right in terms of perspective. I'm talking to people that look differently than me, different eras, genres of life, different decades of life, different positions on the totem pole in the workplace, entrepreneur or not. I'm always seeking opportunity to talk to people that have different experiences than I do, but also have a similar underlying theme. And that is thinking differently, that is behaving differently, to bounce ideas off of, to go to before I go to market with an idea or a product or service, to come back to as a support system, and also to say, hey, give me the critical feedback, like tear it down, give me the holes, what's missing. So all of those, and I do the same for them when they come knocking on my door. So having a brain trust early on in the career journey is very important, I think. And it doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be 12 people. It shouldn't be 12 people, in my opinion. It should be start out with one other person and then get to 3 people and then maybe get to 5, but expand slowly. And that's how I've done it also, because you're looking for opportunities to connect with these people. It's a real relationship. It doesn't happen just fly by night. So it's not going to expand multifold in your first year of your work life or in your 10th year of your work life. So these are things that I have thought about, and the brain trust that I trust, no pun intended, and that I go to. That's how I built it over time.
Trusting in the brain trust. Grant, I'm going to go ahead and do a quick recap here, and then we'll conclude for our listeners. So Grant Harris, wanted to be the best in all from the start. No specific childhood professional dreams. He was great whenever it came to the work around reader, writer, thinker, and philosopher. And he was best when diving deep into theoretical conversations, which led him to his degree in psychology and an MBA in org development, understanding how groups of people think and behave. Early career in teaching, language arts, and English. And you talked about your first guides as coaches. In the cool fact that about 70% of people or more wind up living within a commutable distance of their high school. So something for all of us to think about. When you were building your PBA, you leaned on learning from the go, no go of, hey, it's reciprocal, no, not totally transactional whenever you're putting those advisors onto your personal board. You invested in your region and guided youth of all kinds of backgrounds and abilities then across the tracks to bring others up and make it all a possibility, no matter where you came from. You saw both sides and fueled growth on both fronts. You talked about your 3 careers, from management consulting to education, and now in government consulting and entrepreneurship, from the Wild West and wilderness to clarity and self-learning today. You continue to tell us stories about leveraging legacy learnings to drive impact and success. And you don't stop learning. You did DEI, and then you wanted to dive deeper and became Certified Diversity Executive, CDE. One of my biggest takeaways from today is RACE, not something that we want to go through too fast. RACE framework. Recognize, acknowledge, cultivate, engage. The cycle is ongoing. And everybody call Grant if you want to dive deeper, with the emphasis on neurodiversity throughout the workplace. Let's try and migrate that to neurodistinct. Your brain trust is critical as a sounding board and perspective for more learning to truly live out your mantra of actually getting better at 1% every day. Thanks for joining us, Grant.
Pete, it was a pleasure. That's the best summary I've ever heard about me and my life experience. I appreciate the opportunity to be here with you and your listeners very much. Thank you.